Hi everyone, it's Orb Skywatcher. If you're new to my channel, please check out my other videos. I've been seeing soul orbs and ghost orbs in the daytime for almost 2 years now as part of our Great Awakening. During my last video, I was talking about COVID-19 and the darkness that was coming in. Unfortunately, behind the virus, there was all this demonic energy. And now you can see how many people are, the divide between light and dark has gotten, wider. There's this whole pulling apart, ripping people, like literally, taking friends and having friends fight with each other, or family. I mean, it's been happening for a while, but it's just getting stronger now. So the demonic energy came in, darkness came in, everybody's lives have been turned upside down. The angels are trying to help as much as they can. Celestial assistance, pretty much we're looking at biblical times. I'm sure everybody's heard that before by other channels. That is true. We are reaching, that point. I've been seeing them amass in our skies for 2 years. So I haven't figured out why here yet, but I've always been able to see souls. And, I've grown up kind of, reading tarot cards and, crystals and all that stuff, metaphysical. So I'm used to seeing weird stuff. And I've been writing a book, and my book is just as weird as the stuff I see in the sky. I call it weird because a lot of people are like, they don't believe it and they think I'm seeing insects. And I keep trying to explain to everybody that kind of get into it with me is that, I've shown a couple times that insects, they're smaller than insects, and insects, you see their wings flapping, and angels, when I see the angels, they more like they glide. And when they're in the garden, they sprawl and they swim. So they move completely different. And they look like, when I see them with my own eyes and, without a camera, they look like little clear, not clear, they look like bubbles, like tiny bubbles. And they're usually like a brilliant, bright spark. They sparkle. It's kind of like this amazing sparkly kind of energy. There is energy in our air. There's orb energy, which I call it, which I wish I was a scientist. I wish that I had a way to, equipment to figure this out, but I don't. I mean, this is just me and the camera, and that's it. And I kind of lack the time. I wish I had like a whole team of people, but I don't. This is only why I can get a video out every once in a blue moon. Because even when I do my other videos, it takes a long time. And especially if I'm writing and, I've been homeschooling. But anyway, yeah, we're going through a Great Awakening. Demonic forces are trying to pull us down. Don't let it. Try not to. I know it's hard not to get upset. I know it's hard to not get mad at, when you watch the news. I know it's hard not to get riled up. Because I know that I'm weak sometimes too. I mean, I have my own moments where I get myself riled up, and then I gotta sit back and say, okay, you know what? You gotta focus on what's right in front of you and not what somebody else is trying to tell you, because a lot of it's lies anyway. But in my case, I started reading QAnon. I think it was like December 2018. And I don't want to make this channel political, but so I always thought I was awake, and I've been asleep. And I started reading Q, and I started going down the ET stuff, the secret space stuff, like, or anything like metaphysical. Like, I was like, oh, I did my own research. It's not meant to divide anybody. It's asking you the questions, and you're like, oh, okay, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. Just do your own research. And that's what I did. And then as soon as I started doing my research into things kind of related to my book, that's when I started, we had an uptick in the paranormal. And that's when I started seeing what I thought were UFOs in the sky. So this is how this whole channel started. by Q, then some weird stuff happening in my house. One time we had what we thought, we were putting my son to sleep, and his, we're saying goodnight to him in his bed, and we had the whole floor vibrate. And my husband and I were standing there. We're like, my husband's like, "Do you feel that?" And it's not like it was an earthquake. It was some kind of electrical energy coming off the floors, and it went right up into our bodies. And then right after that, we heard. Now my husband didn't hear this, which is interesting, but my son and I heard this, and we had like a ringing in our ears. But it wasn't a normal ringing. We picked up some kind of code. We picked up a code, and I'm like, and we're standing there going, okay, and I wrote it all down. I've been keeping a journal, and I wrote it all down. And I'm like, that's just, And then there was an entity in the house right after that, and it wasn't a bad entity. It was just someone from another realm, or another type of being. It wasn't an angel. It was something different. And it wasn't, it's probably just like checking us out, just stopping by. Maybe it could have been an elemental. I don't know. But that was an interesting night. And then right after that, I had a demon attack in my car. I had a demon attack me 3 times in 1 year. That first year I started recording the orbs. 3 times. Twice I almost got into a car accident. The first time I think it was more like a test. And that's really hard to explain. But I had a fear attack. And I was sitting in my car waiting to pick up my kids from school. And I had something shimmered in front of my eyes, like a mirage. And all of a sudden I was filled with fear. And my car was rolling. My car was rolling down the street, but it wasn't rolling. It was parked. So when you get attacked by a demon, it messes up your head, and it shows you things that's not real. Now, if it wasn't for going down those rabbit holes and figuring out what it was that I was dealing with, long story short, I figured out how to, get rid of it. And then I was like, I was fine after that. But the main thing was that it was a fear attack, and it wanted me to be scared. And then I had to realize that you have to do the whole thing about it's almost like Wizard of Oz where Dorothy, clicks her heels 3 times. And, it's like, there's no place like home. It's like I had to visualize myself away, protected, and, I had to focus my mind on something totally different. And then it left. The 2 other times after that was like during the summer. And I almost got into car accidents because they make you see things, and it's really hard to explain, but I'm sure everybody else, like a lot of people out there, have experienced similar. It just really messes with your head. So knock on wood, I have my protectors, that I was fine. And it's almost like they were trying to stop me from doing these videos. And a few times I've almost quit, especially when I get thumbs down or I get people to make fun of me. And I only have I don't have thousands of followers, and a lot of times I'm like, and it eats up a lot of my time. But I know that God wants me to do this. I know that how it started off was weird. I thought I was seeing UFOs in the sky. They weren't UFOs. We bought all this telescope equipment, and it took a while to figure out that they were in our atmosphere, because you see these little round things in the sky, and you're like, oh, they're UFOs. And I have like a nice burn mark on my arm. Sorry. I can't cook with 4 kids around without burning myself with the oven, or tripping up the stairs. I'm one of those people that trip up the stairs too, or hit myself in the eye or something stupid. Very clumsy. Amazingly, I only broke 1 camera lens. 2 years I've been doing this, and my husband was not happy, but that's why we have insurance on them, warranties and stuff. But yeah, it started out with UFOs, but they were archangels. And then those hovered, they hovered above the house. I saw them once at the school. I dropped off my kids. I saw one in the sky over there, and then 3 times here. One time at I don't have very good video of those. because I don't even know what we were looking at the time. And then not only that, but they kept cloaking. Uh, it was like this object that kept spinning, um, and it just would constantly cloak. So like you try to get a camera, you try to follow that with your camera, it's like impossible. It's like finding a needle in the haystack in the sky. Um, but that one time, it was like literally over our yard for like 40 minutes. Like this angel, or I call them, I think the larger ones, I guess we can assume are archangels. I mean, I don't even know. But that was like, it was like incredible. And then the whole joke was that I had 40 minutes to like get like really good photos and videos, and then I upload everything, and I'm just like, oh, like, so no. I try. I do my best. A lot of the photos I show everybody. Again, they're this small and they're fast, and it's really, really hard to get clear photos. A lot of times they're surrounded by this energy, so a lot of times they're gonna look blurry, um, because it's almost like pulsing energy, and they're kind of here, but they're not here. So I call them they're like an optical illusion. So sometimes you can see them and you move this way and you can't see them. And I had the guy at the camera store think I was crazy one time when I went in there last summer, and I'm like, I explained to him what I was trying to do, and he's like, there's no cameras on the market that can do what I wish they can do. But you never know. Technology keeps changing. But anyway, I am talking way too long here. But I wanted to point out that um, there's 3 videos that I've been listening to by Kurt Baker. He talks about ritual, dark ritual magic, and he's been unfortunately subjected to some absolutely horrifying things as a child. He has 3 YouTube videos I highly recommend to listen to. He talks about psychic protection. In this battle between light and dark, even if he says it best. Like, you could be a Christian, but you could still learn to protect yourself. And right now, we need to protect ourselves as much as possible, whether you're wearing this kind of like organic jewelry or put crystals in your house. I often sage my yard with sage, and there goes my screen blinking again. Sage, incense, whatever you can do. QAnon talks about the armor of God, which Kurt Baker on his third video on there on YouTube, he talks about the armor of God. Now he actually does it as a kind of like a ritual where you actually put on the armor of God, the helmet, the belt, and he makes a really good point why he does that. So I recommend listening to that. Shield yourself, because the dark side is they're playing dirty. They're doing dirty tricks. So they'll pull whatever they need to pull to take the light side down, and it doesn't matter, what they call up, demons or not. And I get the whole thing about magic is where, everybody's like, oh, magic is bad, don't do it, blah, blah, blah. But that's what they want you to think. They want you to think that you cannot protect yourselves the way that if they're able to use the same energies and use it for dark, you can use the same energies and use it for light. It's the same energies that, like I said, listen to Kurt Baker. Listen to what he says about that. I absolutely agree with him. We're in a battle, and when it comes to battle, you do what it takes. And we do have helpers. We have celestial helpers. They're here. And I just found out like a couple weeks ago that my father used to see angels, and my dad never told me about this. He never told me. Now, my dad's been gone 4 years now, and I just find this out now. And my stepmother told me that the same angel that he saw in the house was the same description as the one that I saw in my room, like I think it was 25 years ago. I had an angel. Now this one was a human size. This was actually bigger than a human, because when it appeared in my room, it literally took up almost the whole corner. Like it was like it took up a whole corner of my room. I mean, it was just, almost, you know, filled up half the room practically. Um, and then that night I was told something, and I had six other ghosts or souls that were with the angel that all came over to talk to me. And whatever I was told, I was, almost like I was knocked out. Like I felt like I don't remember what happened. I woke up in the morning with no recollection of what happened. And a friend of mine who's also, metaphysical said to me that whatever I was told then, I wasn't supposed to know for like, until a certain amount of time, or, until, that day comes. So I'm sure, whatever I was told then has to do with now. So they probably said, oh, we're going to put you on a mission. It's not going to happen until like you're over 50 years old. So what was it? Yeah, I was turning 50 when this all happened. You know, some people in their 50th birthday get to go on cruises and, and all kinds of, or have a party, but no, not me. I had fluff rain down in my yard. Oh, I guess I guess it's better than confetti. I mean, it's pretty cool. But, God's giving me this challenge, and as much as some days I just, I feel like, why bother doing this? It's important. It's part of our great awakening, and these angels and these celestial beings want you to know that they're here. It's biblical, and just to hang on. Just hang on any which way you can. Look towards the light. Like they said in my last video, I talked about God's light, sunlight. Um, and I guess, they were telling me that because, they knew everybody was going to get really, really depressed, And how could we not? I mean, how could we not, feel sad, or, especially like children who didn't get to have their graduation ceremonies, like my son. We lost a lot here, like everybody else, but at the same time, we know that we're blessed, and we're fortunate, and that God's here, it's like I said in my last video, sometimes we find God, sometimes God finds us. And even for myself, I lost my parents 11 days apart. My dad died the day that my father died. My mother called me and told me she had cancer. My mother died a horrible death, unfortunately. It was very traumatic for me. And sometimes really, really bad things happen to us, and we don't know why. And we get angry. We're like, why did you do that, God? Why did you take this away from me? And unfortunately, um, you know, bad stuff happens, and that was a really dark time for me. But then all of a sudden, 2 years later, that on the day that my mother died, it was like the day after, that's when the major fluff of orbs came down. And that was probably, and then the one landed in the tree, and the one was glowing. And I couldn't help think of my mother and my father, and I started crying. I said, oh my God. I said, my parents have been gone 2 years. I said, this is a sign from God that we're not alone. I mean, when I lost my parents, I lost, we lost so much more than that. And some of us are completely alone right now. We don't have any family. We're stuck in an apartment, maybe. We don't even have a pet. And so, when we feel so alone like that, they're here, and they want us to know that we're not alone. We're not crying in our rooms by ourselves. They're here, and they are fighting hard. They are really. I hear sometimes music. Through this is a really funny story. I hear music through the fan. I've been here. Angels or multi-dimensional beings have been playing music through one of my air cleaners for years, and we nicknamed it "Music in the Fan." And on my worst days, if I go to bed at night and I turn that on my worst days, like I read Kurt Baker and I was like, some of his stuff, and I was in tears. And then I heard the music, and I'm like, wow, it's like they know we're crying, and they're like kind of reaching out and saying, we'll get through the horrors. We'll get through the worst of it. So not the other night, it was like a couple weeks ago, I heard a battle cry. Just like in the movie, like in the movies, you hear like, when you're going to war and you hear that battle cry. I heard that. I heard angels. And I heard that, and I'm like, they're preparing. They are getting ready to fight even harder. Um, and it sounds creepy to some people, or it sounds bizarre to others, but I see weird stuff. I hear weird stuff, and my book is weird too. But then if you look at it and you're looking at the Bible and you're like, what does it say about angels going to war with demons? Well, I think we're at that stage. But hang in there, and they got our backs, whether we can see them or not. But take care, and look to the light. White light yourself. Incense, pray, armor of God. Take care.